It's really not easy to talk about something that I personally can't do. And the subject I'm referring to is the subject of humility, as it is really reflected in the purpose and function of what we call the one boy attribute. It refers to one boy because if you consider 6 boys in a row having 6 different specific attributes, and those will rotate to 7 and on. Number one son teaches a very significant lesson for everyone. Number one son means the first biological son of the father. Now, this correspondence automatically relates to the mother's side of the family genetically and epigenetically, going up to mother's father and his father, which is number 5 boy. So this situation, the very first son being correspondent to, if you will, the first chakra, or the experience of things that begin at midnight. Now, this same location corresponds to breath. Pretty important. Now, it is also a reflection of the experience of inspiration. And long ago, some 30 years ago, I got very emotionally invested in midnight being the beginning of the day, and number one son being the beginning of the sequence. I'd like to tell you that I'm pretty sure for now that that's not correct. It turns out that the primary experience of any visible reality is actually directed by the invisible. So, if you will, the inner processes of the inner feminine manifest the outer masculine. By that I mean everything you're seeing and experiencing in my body is an outer display of something invisible, which is for me true for the soul and the spirit world. The material world is a outer reflection of something invisible operating through the duality of the mind and the soul. That's just my experience of it. Now, the challenge is with the one boy principle is that he's also connected to his wife. And by that I mean mother's father, one boy, is connected to mother's mother, what we call two girl. Now, the pattern is very interesting to observe. His wife basically is the yin of his outer reflection. I mean, in that relationship, mother's mother is the primary feeling influence to empower the inspiration of the one boy to aspire to something higher. So what I'm saying is what really empowers my interior capacity to experience inspiration and to, if you will, rise higher in consciousness is empowered by the increase of feeling. I know that sounds like a lot of words, but I'm trying to be technical here as well. There is a sincere desire, if you want it to open the interior gate, it has to start with an increase of the capacity to have personal feelings. Then the utilization of those personal feelings, it is ideally going to be for a purpose. So right away, there has to be an examination of why you would want to increase your capacity to feel. Now, I'm suggesting that the increase of the capacity to feel is going to be realized more rapidly by the increase of the desire for inspiration, the increase of the desire to use that inspiration to project or send it in a direction. I'm going to suggest later on that that direction, one of the opportunities, is to direct that toward the experience of the desire for truth. Okay, so the sincere desire to feel more requires that I really want to feel every feeling inside me. Now that me is somewhat nebulous, because who is that me? Is it just my soul? The sincere desire to feel every feeling inside my own soul? Yes, I can like that definition. I practiced that definition pretty much for 30 years before having some very significant experiences that revealed that the place to start was actually, well, in his wife. So the ability to be able to feel within my inner feminine of feminine, the two girl, increases the inspiration running into my lung or one boy. Now you should be appreciative, I'm sure, that the inspiration on a physical level, inspire, to breathe, to respirate, is the tip of the spear when it comes to the metabolic function. We sometimes think of food and fats and sugars and all those things producing the metabolic function, but no, it's about breathing. Now, breathing is a biological function for the metabolic movement of the body, but what the metabolic movement is to the body, inspiration is to the soul. So how do I increase the inspiration while being appreciative about my biochemical world? Okay, so I've done this so many times. That's why I say, nah, sorry, I can't do it. Yes, I'm practicing. I've had experiences many different ways, but I recognize that the level of feeling inside of me is just outside of my reach. Maybe it's perpetually outside of my reach for reasons, but I would urge you, if you were to study something, and I don't send you off to Google very often or off to the library or something, but I would urge you to go spend a few hours at least searching the root of the word sincere. I'm not going to tell you what my experience of it is, not yet anyway. So examine sincerity, because sincerity is an interior function of purity in some form that gives the capacity for the humility to have a reality. So you have to examine what is your actual motive and what is your actual sincerity to want to change your feelings or change your metabolic function or to aspire or lead or go somewhere. What's really motivating it? And if you really spend time with it in sincerity, it will point you back to the reality of what your hidden feelings really are. By that, you can call it your shadow side, you can call it your childhood injuries, you can call it your epigenetic memories, you can call it whatever you want, but there's typically something driving your desire to want to grow and change. Yes, do that. And that's going to take you right back to opening something deeper. Show me the truth behind my sincere desire to want to feel and grow in a divine way. So it's healthy just to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to give you some experiences I've had, and maybe that would give you a slightly different look at it. I was like really pounding this subject for months once. I mean, every day, because I sincerely still see that this dilating function of the increase of inspiration by the process of choice and sincerity to be the primary means by which I would rise. So if there's a free will attribute, surely I would want to learn and grow in this one. So I was trying every possible way to learn the aspiration toward the opening of feeling toward humility. By the way, if you want to go research that word too, it would be very useful. I'm not going to tell you what mine was, but I'll share with you at least one or two experiences. One night I'm sitting still, not even exactly thinking about my aspiration for humility, and my inner vision opened, much like the one behind me, but much, much clearer, except this one was focused at the earth. And on the earth, I saw clearer than daylight, because no daylight, by the way, is actually very clear, because everywhere you look, there are shadows. Look around something or behind something or under something, there's shadows. In this inner vision, there are no shadows. Reality is much clearer than what we think reality here really is, but that's a whole nother subject. But what I saw was myself. There was no hesitation about who it was me. And I experienced me as being a Native American man, maybe in my late 20s, no more than early 30s, typical garb, no bare-chested function, just a loincloth, and I had my hand clutched on my heart, and blood was oozing out of my hands, and I knew that I had just been in a battle. I also knew I was dying, but I was in a hurry, and I was running through a forest while holding my bloody chest, and I started then to climb on a steep edge of a cliff, and climbed no more than about 30 feet up this nearly vertical wall of rock until it opened up into a clear area, just large enough for my body to lay down on a small lining of rock. And I laid down on my back. I pointed the top of my head to the sun, and the moment my head touched the rock, I died. And then out of my chest, almost immediately, there came this very beautiful white eagle. I mean, very long, long wings, maybe 3 feet on both sides, so something like 2 meters wide. And this bird rose out of my chest, this magnificent, noble bird, powerful bird, just rose upward. And as it rose higher and higher, and it started to spiral upwards into the sky. And then it reached what appeared to be like a ceiling at the top of the sky. It could go no further as an eagle. And the very next moment, I was coming up through the floor of another dimension, whatever you want to call it. I was coming up, but this time I was no longer an eagle. I was a man, and I was a warrior, a mighty warrior. And you might call it I was like a ninja type. I had little sequined like diamonds on all of my fingers, arms, chest. Very powerful, this noble, powerful being, of which I can't attain that state, don't get me wrong, but that's what it felt like. And the moment I came through, I looked around, and in 360 degrees around me, coming from all directions, were these ugly, demonic, black gargoyle type demons from all directions, little ones, big ones, giant ones. And there were thousands, tens of thousands all coming right toward me that just wanted to kill me. And the very first thought I had was, finally, a fair fight. I was so eager to do this. I was just joyfully, let's do this. And I pulled out my sword. And just as I went to go to battle, what the weapon was? A pure and absolute innocence. And this wave of innocence went out, vanquished tens of thousands of demonic gargoyles, or whoever they were. And then I'm back. I can't do it. I can't be that innocent. Not yet, not maybe for a long time. But what I learned about this position is a powerful warrior of pure childlike inspiration. Now, sometimes people say, well, humility means making yourself small, or to surrender, or, just to be hopeless or helpless. Well, please help me because I surrender. Humility is, to me, it's not that. It's the robust willingness to occupy the reality of your own soul as a actualized being of a loving innocence. It's robust. It's not wimpy. It's not needy. It's not dependent. Yes, is it divinely inspired to achieve that level of innocence? Yes. But can I live a world breathing every moment of divine aspiration through innocence? No. But it's worth the time to feel it and then to practice that experience. Now, oddly enough, the moment you start to want to feel that, there needs to be a resolution of your mother's side of the family. I know that's bad news. It's not easy, because the moment you want to access this position of this mythical humility leading to pure innocence, there has to be the willingness to feel your mother's feelings about her own mother, and your grandmother's feelings about her daughter, and your grandmother's feelings, period, because it has a lot to do with your own capacity for inspiration through feeling, and her relationship to her husband, your mother's father, and so on, and this whole family tree of your mother's side of the family. One by one, you get the opportunity to experience and gradually learn how to resolve, either by releasing or transforming or filtering or sending back whatever is not yours, but everything there inside of you, given to you by your mother's family, it's your responsibility to deal with it. There are different ways, yes. Some of them, for example, in your childhood, you don't want to get rid of them because they're frozen. You want to liberate frozen memories from your childhood, so those same energetic experiences that were once crystallized through some kind of damage, they're returned back to your own ability to mature your consciousness, mind, well-being, or your kidney or some other part of your anatomy. So I'm saying there are feelings you need to liberate and assimilate. There are feelings that don't belong to you. They were transplanted there by somebody else. You don't need to assimilate them and process unloving feelings from somebody else. But one of the ways to be able to get there is to develop enough humility that the increase of humility produces a discernment. That discernment is the instrument that can separate what's yours and what's not yours. So that discernment is like pumping up a balloon where your desire to feel and your desire to grow and your desire to have the humility and the desire to be on the divine love path increases your capacity to feel, and then you can discern the different parts of your family tree, not only on your mother's side, but your father's side. So this location called One Boy, which is right now, this is the 3rd day of the 4th week of the One Boy month, which happens to be the 4th month since the solstice, equinox, excuse me. This is just 1 month in a series of months. My suggestion is all these months are linked, and they have to do with people. So that's my experience of a little bit of the One Boy stuff, and I don't even feel like I'm just barely touching into it. Now, how do I use that? Well, sometimes I have to use whatever I currently have, One Boy, to feel my one girl. As you see behind me, that corresponds to air. One girl corresponds to earth and mountain. And then the One Boy needs to connect to his brother, which is fire. Fire uses air. So earth, air, fire, water are all components of a place inside me that I need to learn to use better. It's a challenging job to be a human being and occupy one's capacities by intention and sincerity. So good luck with this. Hang in there. It's worth your time to feel every moment that you can in your breath. It will serve you well. Good luck.